Can you tell me what exactly is speech?
Speech is basically a bunch of high schoolers. They come together as a group. They do a bunch of different comedic skits or public speaking or saying political or stuff like that off the fly. They learn all this stuff and they go to tournaments and compete against other people who are doing the exact same thing. And it's kind of like...
The best way I describe speech team to anyone who asks is competitive acting, even though there aren't all acting events. It's competitive acting and presentation. Basically, the events that are speaking events, they're just, what's it called? You have your acting events and then you have your speaking events, and so it's just competitive in those ways. You compete every single week in your one event. It could be acting, it could be giving a speech, and you try to get better and better and compete against other schools. So it's just, that's pretty much the best way I can describe it.
Speech is kind of like a family to me. Back in Marlow, I used to do the plays, and I could get the family feeling, but I would still be able to focus when it comes to the plays.
To me, it kind of helps me to get my mind away from more like school, the outside world in general, because it's basically whenever I go to do speech, whenever I'm in a round or whatever, I have, about 8 minutes where, I'm not me. I'm whoever I have to be for the piece.
Speech means a lot to me because when I was in high school, I was on the varsity team for all 4 years, and for a good chunk of time, that was all I did in high school. From, I think the season starts late October all the way till February. That was always all I was doing every single week, every single weekend, and it cultivated me not only as an actor, but as a speaker as well.
What are some of the different speech events that one can compete in?
I performed in poetry, prose, original comedy, dramatic interpretation, there's humorous interpretation, there's writing events like oratory, informative, SOS.
There are 3 main subcategories. There's acting events.
Humorous duet acting, dramatic duet acting. Then you have humorous interpretation, which is you by yourself presenting a humorous script, and then you have dramatic interpretation. Original comedy, you write your own humorous script. And then you have 2 book events, prose and poetry, where you have a book when you compete.
Then there's the public speaking events, which is, there's original oratory, which is a persuasive speech that you write yourself. Then there's SOS, which is the same thing, except you take on a particular persona, and there's a setting to go along with it. Then there's, what's the other one? Then there's info, which is basically as simple as it sounds. It's an informative speech. You take something as simple as olives or laughter, and you write an informative speech about it. Then the most difficult one, in my opinion, is limited prep events, where you have a limited amount of time to make up a speech, talk about a particular subject. For example, one of them, extemp, you have 45 minutes to write an 8-minute research speech with citations. And that's basically, when someone asks about speech, that's the one that I talk about, because that one's the most mind-blowing to hear about.
And of those events, what would you say were your favorite events to compete in?
I really liked original comedy this year. It was something new that I started trying out, and that was a lot of fun. There's a lot of funny people. Poetry was a lot of fun for me too. That's the event I started out with.
Definitely humorous duet acting. It's the one that I've always succeeded the most in. It's the one I've had the most fun with, and it's the one I'm pushing for state the most.
Definitely HDA for sure, because that's the event that really got me to go into speech. Because me and my partner, like the partner that I have, Joey White, which I don't know if anybody who's watching this knows him, he's a great guy. I consider him to be a brother at this point. Because it really, eventually it is just you two, and it's you two against the world, basically, at that point, And I have grown as a person doing all of this, and I'm sure he has, and together it's just kind of brought us closer together.
OC is original comedy, and then you have to create an minute skit having to consist more than 4 people because you had to pop into character. So to represent a different character, but it also has to tell a story. It's different from stand-up because you don't necessarily have to change the character, and it's much longer than 8 minutes. Also, there's really no storyline sometimes. You're just telling jokes.
Like, describe what a speech tournament is like.
Long. Very long days.
It's tiring.
A speech tournament is not like something I ever pictured. Basically, everyone goes there, we're all really tired.
No one who does speech would be able to talk about it without saying they have to get up at about 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning, because tournaments start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they could be anywhere as far as 2.5, 3 hours away. So you've got to get up very early for it.
Every single morning, we get there, and the first thing that everyone's about is, how you doing? I'm tired. Okay, that sucks. Me too.
Then when you get there, it's in a school, much like Huntley, and you get what's called schematics. And your schematics have all the rounds of competition that are going on, and you have to, you'll find where you are in each of those rounds, and there's 3 of them. You go there and you compete in them against other people in classrooms. A lot of people, when they think about speech, they think, at least when I thought of it, they thought it was on like some big extravagant stage, excuse me, when really it's nothing more than just casually in a classroom.
And then you're on the ride home, and then you finally collapse inside your mom or dad's car. So it's tiring.
But after that, it really is a very social event that's also very understanding. I don't think I've ever met a very discriminatory person that's actually in a speech, like a student, ever. I've met judges that are like it, but I haven't met students that are like that. Some of the students that I've met have been some of the nicest people I have ever met, and it's actually brought us closer to other teams. Like, there are people, just last week I got judged by the guy that won state, and I had been joking with him all last year, so of course he makes a joke about me and my buddy when we go up to do HDA, which is kind of funny. And that's another thing. You make friends. You pick out names from people that you have met, and you keep those for a long time. You'd be very surprised because, some of the people that you meet there are really, really fun. And I personally haven't met anyone that's been on a different side of the spectrum. Like, everyone's always been, like, way up here for how nice and understanding everyone is. No one's been, like, down here, like, racist and bigotry and, like, but everyone's been like, yeah, cool, hey.
When you competed, what did it feel like when you first made it into finals?
Yeah, it was great. I was really happy, and that's because we had broke as sophomores when the seniors in front of us did not break. And it was just kind of like, yeah, ha, we got it, yeah, who's on top now?
It's an experience, because most people, including myself, don't break in their first tournament, or their second, or their third, or their fourth, sometimes even their fifth. There are some people who almost never break, and that's a very difficult. It's tough to go through a season and wake up all those times and spend all the time into it and succeed very little. But that first time, because there's always that first time, and that first time is it's a potent feeling of success, because you feel like all that work is finally paid off.
And how did it feel when you won your first award?
When I won my first award, which was that day, I got 6th place. But I realized in retrospect that it was 6th out of like 50-something people, which was really cool.
It felt exhilarating. It felt really good. I felt like I actually accomplished something, which was really nice. It's a feeling you can't describe, but you can only feel it.
The first award that I can remember getting and feeling really accomplished was at Downers Grove South in my sophomore year. Joey and I, we managed to actually make it into semis, and you get a little medal if you make it into semis. And I remember sitting there and looking at this thing, and it's like this little, like, pewter, silver kind of crappy thing, but I thought it was really cool, and I was sitting there, and next to me was Joey, and then I had Parth Patel, Jordan Moore, all like the really big names that I'd always looked up to, and I was like, I'm on this level. This is insane.
We're thrown into speech, and they do a really good job of explaining what it is, but until you experience it, I think that first tournament, it kind of just feels like a dream. So it felt good, and it kind of motivates you to keep going, and you want to do better, but again, you're not really all there. It's very surreal. But once you start getting into varsity tournaments and you start breaking at tournaments that are hard and you know the competition, it's a really good feeling.
What kind of person do you think would be interested in joining the speech team?
I learned about the speech team through theater. So I think somebody who likes acting would probably be into speech, or if somebody who likes writing.
I'd say actors, anyone who's interested in acting, because we do have a lot of acting events, but also people who would just do well in public speaking. So people who are in English class and they have to give a presentation, and your teacher says you have a very nice presenting voice, you talk very well to the class, like those are the type of people we could use. People who are good at writing persuasive speeches. It's really open for anyone. And even if you're not that comfortable talking in front of an audience, we can start you off in events where necessarily you don't have to address an audience, like radio speaking, and just to build your confidence. And once you see what it is, I feel like everyone just needs to experience a day of tournaments. Everyone will get excited to actually participate because they'll actually see it firsthand, and it really gets everyone's energy up. Once you know what's going on, you do want to do better every single week in order to make it to the state series.
Definitely a competitive person. Speech can get very, very competitive. But it can also be sort of a mechanism for solving a public speaking fear, because there are there's easy events and then there's hard events, and there's a very solid spectrum of difficulty in terms of how to do well. And someone who has public speaking fears, they can definitely start out with some of those easier ones, and speech can definitely help alleviate those fears.
And how do you feel speech has helped you in life, whether it be, professionally or personally?
Well, sometimes the classes I take, mostly literacy, would have us to say a speech in front of the classroom. I get nervous sometimes, and then I start improvising. Speech team helped me to calm down that nervousness and stop improvising, and then I managed to speak easily in front of people.
Speech has helped me so much in life professionally. I've gone a lot of job interviews, and I've been told by a lot of employers that I'm very well spoken for being, such a young adult. And I think speech really helped that. It puts you in front of audience members, and it kind of forces you to get better, and it forces you to explore places you don't think you're going to explore. It forces you to look at people in the eye when you're talking, and that's very important when you become an adult. And also networking. At these tournaments, we see people from different schools, and you don't ignore them, you talk to them, you want to get to know people. So it's all these skills you use when you're an adult. If it's already implemented you at a young age, it's only going to get better as you grow older. And it's only going to make you a better speaker, and it's going to make your professional life so much better.
Well, I used to have a stutter, a pretty bad stutter. In fact, so bad that I basically couldn't talk until I was almost 4 years old. And that kind of hung with me, sort of kind of like luggage. And speech really helped me be able to, it didn't really help me get rid of my stutter, but it really helped me realize that it's okay. It's something that's part of me, and the fact that I can still do speech and succeed in it with that in the back of my mind, it's personal in that way.
I think it's made me more confident to talk to people in large groups.
Speech got me a job over the summer. I was a stunt actor at Downley's Wild West, and I was falling off buildings all day, and I was out acting, which was great. I was a cowboy, Never forget that 20-foot drop. That's always amazing. And altogether, it's helped me with presenting in front of classes. I had an English final I got a 98 out of 100 on. Didn't didn't write anything, didn't do anything. They said you have to have a topic and speak about it. And I'm like, I got this. Went up there, talked about it for like, give them 5 minutes of time or whatever they needed. Didn't write anything out, didn't really pre-plan anything. 98 out of 100. I passed that class pretty well. It's nice. So yeah, professionally got me a job, and in all life, it's just helped me to be a better public speaker and be more sociable.